But in a situation where you find that a look at the
not necessarily tribal or regional.
Because I have said that. Where you find that a look at the
not necessarily tribal or regional.
Because I have said that. Where you find that a look at the
not necessarily tribal or regional.
Because I have said that.
All right, welcome back. It's still Daybreak on Trust TV, and it's time for the newspaper review. We already have our guest in the studio, and we'll introduce him later when we're done reeling out, the headlines on the front page of newspapers. And we'll start with a Daily Trust newspaper for today. And the lead here is petrol scarcity to linger as cargoes stranded. We also have writers that say filling stations sell above 200 naira per litre, and crude oil hits $112 per barrel. At the top there, you'd find a story that says APC North Central governors meet Al Makura over consensus. Details of that can actually be found on page 12. We also have fuel crisis hits airlines as passengers suffer delays and cancellations. Special parliamentary seats, Women Affairs Minister blasts National Assembly. And you can find details of that on page 13. If you come down to the bottom there, you find a story that says Ukraine invasion. Buhari approves 3.5 billion naira to evacuate 5,000 Nigerians. And right above is a pictorial of members of the Nigerian Coalition of Women Civil Society Groups during their protest against the rejection of pro-women bills by lawmakers at the National Assembly yesterday. On the footnote there, you have Chad 6 OIC members support to end insecurity in West Africa. You also have a man beats father to death over witchcraft, and details of that story can be found on page 23. Again, families of detained Bureau de Change operators protest in Kano, and you can find details of that on page 26. Now, these are some of the stories we have on the front page of Daily Trust newspaper. And then with that, we'll move on to more newspapers on our list, and let's take a look at Blueprint newspaper. Now, the lead here says 3 weeks after NNPC's assurance, fuel queues persist nationwide. We also have riders saying scarcity worsens, citizens suffering. Product now 250 naira to 500 naira per litre. Abuja, Lagos worst hit. Veteran journalists seek way out. Bear with us, it will soon be over, says NNPC. Senate urges Buhari to transmit amendment to PIA. And right at the top, you find troops smoke out 200 terrorists in Niger, which is quite a feat. And it says lose 2 as well. Neutralize bandits, commanders, recover rustled cows. Reps urge IGP, Army Chief to raid Anambra kidnappers' den. And you can continue that story on page 6. Now, below that story, just beside the pictorial, you see a picture of the president and a story that says Ukraine. Buhari okays $8.5 million for evacuation of trapped Nigerians. First batch returned today via Air Peace and Max Air. And below it, you'd find INEC solicits EU support on electoral process and governors. Nigeria loses 379 billion naira to gas flaring in 12 months. On page 14, you'd find mother, 3 kids die in Ebonyi, mystery fire. You also have oil spikes to $112 as Russian crude becomes toxic, may reach $150 per barrel. We also have court jails too for forging Kaduna electric receipts in Kebbi State. Details of that story on page 22. But that we'll move on to the Nation newspaper. And on the Nation newspaper, the lead here says government kicks off process for Kyari's extradition to the U.S. Malami asks court to okay request, and COP challenges 14 days detention order. You also have, just below it, the 3 counts in America. That's the 3 counts in America that he's going to face. And then suffering over petrol scarcity lingers. Queues at filling stations cause traffic gridlock in cities. Panic buying, hoarding to blame. NNPC says loading has started. And at the top there, you have a zoning crisis festers in the APC, a new committee to submit report on Monday. You also have Russian invasion of Ukraine. 115 Nigerians register in Abuja to join Ukraine troops. We also have Buhari okays $8.5 million to evacuate stranded 2,090. We have lost 2,000 civilians, and UN says 836,000 now refugees. And we also have a story that says OAU students' death. Hotelier, 6 others arrive in Osun to face trial. Okay, with that, we'll move on to more newspapers, and we have The Punch there. On The Punch, Nigeria, 140 others vote against Russia-Ukraine to get $5.2 billion lifeline. We also have embassy sends Nigerian volunteer fighters list to Ukraine. Buhari approves $8.5 million for evacuation. FG waives pre-departure tests. And then at the top there, you find OPEC raises Nigeria's oil production quota as Brent hits $111 per barrel. Insecurity may scare voters in 2023, Khan warns. And then on education, if ASU stops fighting, public varsities will die like primary schools, says Osodeke, union president. Below there, Nigerians suffering under reckless misrule of elites, says Jega on page 18. Ogun contractor kills girlfriend, writes wife, commits suicide. And Senate may pass revised budget next week. Okay, these are some of the stories on the front page of a Punch newspaper, and we'll move on to This Day newspaper next. The lead here is about the convention, and it says APC set to roll, appoints Abdul Razak zoning committee chairman. We also have writers that say Lawan Omo Agege, some APC senators endorse Adamu for national chairman. Party leadership yet to meet on electoral act, says Akpondodo Ehe. We also have Sheriff. Sheriff says, I'm not aware Buhari is endorsing Adamu. And right below it, we have women protest over constitution review, alleged discrimination, and oil's price surges above $113 as OPEC keeps supply unchanged, and Nigeria gets 1.735 million barrels per day allocation for April, and petrol scarcity persists. Yes, with that, we'll move on to the final paper, which is a Business Day. On Business Day, Seplat ExxonMobil deal puts new oil law to test. And we have a few writers here that says how Seplat raised money to buy ExxonMobil assets, and 6 reasons why Seplat ExxonMobil deal is good for Nigeria. We also have petrol marketers lament supply shortage as queues worsen. Ukraine-Russia crisis, 2,090 Nigerians expected as evacuation begins today. And at 88, there is still a lot God wants me to accomplish, says FCMB founder. All right, so in the studio today, we have Editor-in-Chief Dateline Nigeria, Nasiru Lawal, and he joins us for the newspaper review. Good morning and welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. It's good to be here.
All right, so let's start with the lead story on Daily Trust, and it happens to be the lead story on, almost every newspaper in Nigeria today, which has to do with petrol scarcity, lingering, and, as cargoes are actually stranded. It actually means, more of the scarcity. It means more more of the frustration for Nigerians. Share your thoughts on this.
It's quite unfortunate that we are still talking about fuel scarcity after all this long period of time. What I can see, or as far as the eyes can see, rather, when you are moving around the city, you tend to see all this, what do you call them, selling fuel in jerry cans. Where are they getting the fuel from? So if actually there is scarcity, I expect them not to have the fuel also. But the problem we tend to have, aside from the cargoes being stranded, is the fact that we have not been able to enforce the law. People are getting these resources from this product from only God knows where, and nobody is doing anything about it. So many people have now resigned to fate. They even have their own black market dealers that anytime they want fuel, they are the people that they call. So it's actually a problem that we have not been able to enforce the law.
You know, the NNPC is also saying that Nigerians should bear with them and that it will soon be over. Are we not tired of all the assurances?
Actually, Nigerians, that's not what Nigerians are after. Apologies, no. What we want is to be able to go to the filling stations, be able to buy fuel. That's all we want. Actually, the apologies, I don't think they are necessary. What Nigerians want is for you to provide this product so that whenever we want, we will be able to get them.
Okay, now with that, because honestly, you know, just talking about the fuel scarcity enough, you know, it's actually quite draining, yes. But then let's move on to something else. Let's talk about the Russian-Ukraine invasion. And on Punch newspaper, the lead story there talks about 140, you know, countries vote against Russia, and Ukraine is actually to get $5.2 billion lifeline.
I'm surprised that Nigeria is actually one of the countries that is condemning the Russian invasion. I'm not saying Nigeria has no right to do that, but looking at our foreign affairs policy, we've always been non-aligned, you know, we've always played this neutral role, but this time that we are coming in to say Russia is wrong and that they should withdraw, probably we are going into the problem, which I don't think is good for the country.
Okay, now the embassy is actually sending, you know, Nigerian volunteers, you know, fighter lists to the Ukraine, and you have a lot of people saying, you know, there's insecurity in the country. Why didn't this set of people, you know, volunteer to fight insurgents, and you know, instead of going to Europe?
Well, I've heard so many people saying that actually what they want is to be able to get out of Nigeria and then find what they will be able to do afterwards. Because just like people are saying, we have our own challenges. Why don't you stay here to help us out? But as you can see, even the Ukrainian embassy is waiving off visa fee. You don't need a visa to go there because this time they want you. Anytime you go to the Ukrainian embassy and you see the number of people that are actually looking for visas and they've not been able to get them, but here they are being offered free of charge if they can help Ukraine to fight Russia. But the sincerity is what we should be looking at. People really sincere that they want to help Ukraine?
Are they taking advantage of the...
Or are they only taking advantage of it so that they get out of the country and then decide what they do afterwards?
Okay. All right. Now, what about the president approving $8.5 million for evacuation of Nigerians, you know, in the Ukraine?
Well, from what I have read so far, it's not just about the evacuation. Okay. It's also about helping the embassies to arrange feeding and other logistics. But you can see Nigeria is also trying to play the role of the big brother in Africa. They are also even offering to help other stranded Africans that are there that have left Ukraine, Ghana, Cameroon, and a number of other African countries. So maybe what they should consider first is to be able to finish with our own citizens before they do that, because in as much as it is good for Nigeria to also help its neighbors and other co-African countries, they should start with the nationals, because that's their first responsibility.
Okay. All right. Now, let's move on to more stories and talking about Abba Kyari right now. On the Nation newspaper, it says government kicks off process for Kyari's, extradition to the U.S. So finally, even while this is actually happening, Kyari is still, challenging, his detention and, trying to fight for himself before he gets extradited. What's your thought on this?
When the issue broke out, so many people were saying maybe some people within the government actually introduced these new charges against Abba Kyari so that they will be able to stop his extradition to the United States of America. But now that this is coming out, probably that may not be the case. But if you look at the Extradition Act, there are so many things that you will have to finish here in Nigeria before you will be available outside, especially when the problem you have tend to look like the same. Because this has to do with drugs and international crime, and the same thing he's been sought after in the United States of America. It's also about an international crime, working with international syndicates. Yes.
All right. So now, do you think if he's actually left in Nigeria that, the process of, charging him might be swept under the carpet?
Well, I don't think we'll be able to do that because it's either we go ahead with the NDLEA case or we find a way of transferring him to extraditing him to the United States of America. We have to do one of the two. We can't do neither and then expect the world to just allow Nigeria to.
Because even before now, we already have, the police saying that, instead of dismissing him, let him be, demoted instead, and a whole lot of,
Well, it's because so many people are actually accusing the police of being complicit. Probably they think if Abba Kyari is allowed to face this thing alone, he may end up implicating so many people, and you never know the people that he may implicate, and that may not be good for the police force.
But where do you see this case, going? Where do you see it headed?
Well, I expect the NDLEA to be able to do to follow their own case to a logical conclusion, and if they are not able to do that, then probably we may not have any option than to extradite him to the United States of America, because actually the problem with that, once he's in the United States of America, there will be no hindrance. They will be able to do all the due diligence there, because if you look at what they were able to do even before indicting him, how they were able to establish the fact that he had met with so people in Dubai. This transfer took place between Abba Kyari and some people of interest to the United States of America. Honestly, I see the NDLEA going ahead to do this to a logical conclusion.
Okay, and now with that, we'll move on to, the gender bills. I'm sure you've actually been expecting me to talk about that. Now, the National Assembly has actually said there's no going back, and women are definitely angry, and they've actually alleged discrimination. A lot of women, in leadership have actually come out, against, the defeats of this particular bill.
Well, why are we talking about gender bill at this point in time?
Exactly.
Because you see, we are in a democracy, which is a game of numbers. I actually have a problem with the way the proponents of the gender bill are going about it, because if you are expecting Nigeria to be able to have some special seats for women lawmakers, I don't think it will be good to say this is for women alone, because you are talking about gender equality. What I expect is for women to be given fair chance,
So they compete with the men.
So they compete. Actually, if they are using their numbers honestly, they will be able to do so many things even without this gender bill. But the problem is women have not been able to
mobilize them.
to mobilize, to carry their weight and all that. That's why we are still talking about gender bill, because how do you even go about it? If you are to say Kaduna State should produce maybe a female senator, from which zone is she going to come from? Is it from the central, is it from the southern part, or is it from the northern part? You see, these are things that will need to be ironed out. Probably what we should be talking about is whoever becomes a leader, whether it's male or female, should be able to carry women along. There are so many positions that women can be given so that they become part of governance, because they also have a role to play. But to say that they should be given this special concession, honestly, I don't think it's even good for the women, because people will be saying, it's just...
It was a reserved kind of...
Yeah, they're just giving you because maybe you don't even merit it. But there are so many women who have proved themselves to be capable of, even leading the country. So why are we talking about special concession here and there?
Okay, so do you think women in leadership or women in position actually, makes a lot of difference?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. If the men are given the chance, why not the women? Because there are some people who are arguing the fact that some women have been tried and they failed, that they shouldn't be tried again.
What about
so
the men?
So many men have failed, but we keep giving them the chance.
Yes,
so honestly, I don't think that argument is even a sound one.
A lot of people thought, the visit by the wife of the president was actually, going to make this easier. People thought women had a chance, and then boom, we saw this. It was really...
Well, actually, she should have started that long ago. But to come at the end of it, when they have finished, when they were about to release the result of their... Honestly, I don't think that will have changed anything. So maybe she needed to have gone there, right from the beginning, so that she may be able to convince them, probably.
Okay, so in years to come, do you see women, given more slots, given more seats in time? Because it seems like the men are trying to muscle the women out
This is what I'm talking about. We shouldn't be talking about women being given slots. No, women should fight for these slots, and they have the numbers. If women can mobilize,
49%.
Yes, if women can mobilize, believe me, they will be able to do so many things with their numbers. But the problem is even when it comes to even obtaining the form, women want to be given the form free of charge. They want to be given so many. It's not good for them. They should be able to come out, because this is something that they merit. This is something that they can actually do. But they have not been they've not been using their numbers. That's
But you talked about, giving the forms, but, these forms can be very, very expensive. And, how many women actually have the finances to, get these forms?
They should be able to mobilize. That's what I'm talking about. If the men can afford it, honestly, the women can also afford it. We have so many women billionaires. This is something that, has to do with women. So women should be able to mobilize themselves, even if it means sponsoring themselves.
Okay. Okay, I think we'll take a quick break right now. When we come back, we'll continue this. Stay tuned.
Pour that while we're debating the general principle of the 2022 budget, I raised the issue of the tax expenditure, Mr. President. Tax expenditure are waivers that are given to individuals or companies. Mr. President, if we look at the tax expenditure in 2022, is about 1 trillion. And it is totally unnecessary. So it is not just what the president has sent here. Let us consider those areas that can help them save money, because we might decide to step down on those tax expenditure. For instance, the individuals that are giving tax expenditure of about 600 billion. Let us know, arrest it. Let us know those people. And then how we can save monies from this tax expenditure to defray even the deficit and attend to some of the issues that the president has raised. So let the appropriation committee, in considering it, look at those tax expenditure. It's very important, Mr. President.
All right, welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is Daybreak on Trust TV. Now, let's take a look at some more stories. There's this one on the Blueprint newspaper that states troops smoke out 200 terrorists in Niger, and then they lost 2. Could you comment on that?
Well, that's quite a good one because, Niger State has been on the receiving end for quite some time. When the issue went a bit down in parts of Kaduna and Zamfara State, it's like they just moved to Niger State and doing all the killings, cattle rustling and so many things. But now that we are hearing about the troops being able to kill 200 terrorists, I think it's something that calls for celebration. But, one thing I would expect the government to also do is to be able to show some evidence to the people. Anytime you say you have killed a number of people, people want to see, okay, where are the casualties? Where are the, because just for you to come out with these figures, honestly, I don't think some people will be convinced.
Wow. Okay. Now, talking about, troops killing terrorists, in the past, we've actually seen situations where, after, they've successfully, neutralized these terrorists, some of them who are actually still alive go back to these communities and, unleash mayhem on these communities as, revenge. So what are these troops actually doing to protect, communities around?
Yeah, that's actually another problem, We have not been able to sustain the momentum all the time. Now that we have succeeded in killing so many of them, honestly, we should be able to follow up with more operations, or what do they even call them? So, because if we don't do that, like you said, they come back to the same communities and then unleash all sorts of mayhem. And the people are actually afraid sometimes of helping the security agents, because anytime they do that, when these people come back, they are left to their own devices, and it's actually not good for the system.
One other problem, we are facing is the fact that sometimes when a particular area is under attack, we mobilize, and then there's so much energy, to maim that area. And then suddenly, when we think everything is over, we withdraw, and leaving that community susceptible to more attacks. What do you think, what strategy should we use this time?
Well, in the military, I think they call it garrison, When you are able to take over a town, you don't just leave it, you remain there to ensure that things are back to normal. But from what we have been seeing, honestly, that has not been, it's not been done for obvious reasons, because probably we don't have the numbers that we need to maybe leave behind. We are always on the move because of shortage of manpower and all that. But is that how we should be going about it? No. there are so many people that are actually volunteering, you know, to be able to secure their own communities. So with little help, we should be able to secure these areas even after reclaiming them.
Okay, so this actually still, you know, goes back to the question, should these people arm themselves to protect themselves against, you know, these bandits and these terrorists?
Well, the problem is, even if they want to arm themselves, how do they go about that? You know, somehow the criminals have mastered the art of, you know, getting weapons from wherever they want to get them. But the people have not been that lucky. But believe me, if the people can actually also obtain these weapons, they will start getting them, because in so many instances, they have had to defend themselves. So why will you want to remain at home just for somebody to come and kill you, and then you are helpless, you can do nothing about it? So if actually they will be able to get these weapons, believe me, they will have started acquiring them by now. But one of the problems that we have, we tend to refer all these people as either a commander, either a kingpin. How many kingpins do they have? How many commanders do they have that you will kill 200 today, you kill another 100 tomorrow, and then they seem not to be ending? So people will be asking questions.
All right, now one would actually think that, you know, with the, you know, APC convention date set for, you know, next month, that all the internal wranglings would have subsided, you know, to, you know, a degree. But we're seeing here that, you know, there's still zoning crisis festering in the APC.
Yeah, I think they have even assigned the governor of Kwara State that responsibility to be able to decide that. And you can see from some of the things that some of the stakeholders are saying, probably they are not happy with what is out so far, because some are saying the chairmanship of the party has been zoned to the North Central, and even at that, the president has come out to endorse Senator Abdullahi Adamu, when so many people in even Nasarawa State are still asking that they are supporting Al-Makura instead. So, you know, politicians, they will continue pushing, they will continue trying their luck. Probably something may come out of it before we reach the convention date.
Okay, hopefully.
Now let's take a look at some more stories, like the one on the Punch, talking about ASU. Now, Osede, the union president, you know, is saying that if ASU stops fighting, public varsities will die like primary schools. Are you of that opinion as well?
Well, I don't know why he said that, but probably he was trying to show the actually magnitude of the problem, because why should we still be talking about introducing, establishing new universities when we have not been able to take care of the ones that we have? Probably that's what he's trying to point out. And you can see what has become of primary schools. It's the responsibility of the local governments to run them, but the local governments have become powerless. They are left with only payment of salaries, and even the salaries, some are not able to do that. They have to go to the state government all the time. The governor is the one in control. So because of that, they are no longer being able to take care of primary schools. And that's what he is trying to say. Because most of these officials that you see, it's either their own words are studying outside or studying at private institutions, even within the country. So they may not care what happens or what becomes of the public institutions. And that's probably one of the things that he's trying to draw attention to.
Okay, do you think the number of these institutions are too many for Nigeria to actually handle? Should they be, you know, probably reduced, or, you know, is there some form of regulation? Yeah,
honestly, we should stop talking about quantities and, you know, focus on the qualities of what we are churning out from all these institutions. There are so many universities that are only there because just to meet the numbers to say that, okay, so state have their own state-owned universities, or the federal government also has an institution in so number of states. Honestly, that's not what we need. When we used to have not more than 3 or 4 universities in Nigeria, so many people were trained, you know, and the products that they were churning out at the time, you know, people were coming from outside to come and study in Nigeria. Is that the case now? No. Even with the numbers, there are so many schools that are even begging for students, because people are not going there. People are not meeting all the quota and all that, because the schools are just too many. And if there are too many, honestly, funding them and taking care of them will be difficult.
And then the strikes, you know, aren't making things easy at all, because, you know, you end up going in for a 4-year course and coming out after 8 to 10 years due to ASUU strikes. So
you can see.
And the students also protested. You know, we actually have, you know, the ASUU members saying that they're fighting for the students, and the students are standing solidly behind them, but we actually still saw them protesting.
Well, it's because, just like they say, when 2 elephants fight, you know, it's the grass that
suffers.
So the students are now in the middle, you know. They don't even know who to trust again. Because if actually the university lecturers are doing it for the students should be able to know. They should be able to tell us. If the government is also taking care of their interests, they should be able to tell us. But now that they are coming to say, to protest, it shows that even at that, they are not comfortable with what both parties are actually doing.
Okay. Now let's go back to, you know, insecurity. We also have on Daily Trust on page 3, Chad seeking OIC members' support to end insecurity in West Africa.
Well, I'm surprised that it is Chad that is talking about insecurity in West Africa, because Chad is actually not part of West Africa. Chad is part of the Central Africa region, or what do you call them? They are not part of West Africa. So why are they interested? Is it that what is happening in West Africa is beginning to affect them? Probably that's what they are.
Yes, they're suffering insecurity as well.
What they are trying to say. But being our neighbors, also, whatever affects Nigeria will definitely affect Chad, either in form of refugees, you know, displaced persons, or even flow of arms. Because there was a time that Nigeria was actually accusing Chad of allowing its borders to be used for all these gun runners and what have you. But it's a good development that they are bringing attention to the problem in West Africa.
Okay. Now, we're also seeing that federal government, you know, has ordered domestic airlines, you know, to cut down airfares to about 60%. Some would say maybe it's because of maybe Qatar Airways coming in and then having more lifts from Kano and then to also Port Harcourt.
Well, I don't think it's good for the government to tell the airlines what to do. Of course, I know the government has a regulatory function to play, but to come out and say this is something that you shouldn't go beyond, honestly, I don't think it's good for the system. The airlines will be able to determine what they think, you know, how they can make profit, because they are not charity organizations. They are in it because they want to make money. But in doing that, they should also show some sense of responsibility, so that the people will be able to afford their services. But the government shouldn't be the one saying, don't go beyond this or don't go below that, because there is supposed to be competition. So whoever is charging exorbitant fees should know that unless if he's doing something extraordinary, people may want to use alternative means.
Okay. All right. I think we're almost, there's this particular human angle story, you know, and it's on Daily Trust as well. And it has to do with, you know, a man beating his father to death over witchcraft. We've seen a lot of stories about, you know, people accusing their parents or, you know, other people of witchcraft.
It's unfortunate that we are still talking about witchcraft in this era of science and technology, because what the what will I even say? What the man is complaining that his father is responsible for his wife not conceiving. Something that you can actually do with just a visit to the hospital. The doctors can run some tests and they will be able to tell you, no, the problem is from you, the problem is from your wife, and then you don't have to take innocent lives just like that. Now he has deprived himself of a father, and probably he's not even the only person. There are others. He has maybe younger brothers or so, and then what do they do now? Because the problem is his problem, not their problem, and why should he do that when there is, with just a visit, like I said, to the hospital, he will be able to know what is responsible for your wife not conceiving.
And then he would also be charged, for murder, and in essence, probably lose his wife, because if he goes away for a long time...
Actually, that's what the court is already saying. He's facing life imprisonment. And if you are doing that, which is, I think, a minimum of 21 years, probably he's around 40 or so. In the next 20 years, where will he be?
All right, now we actually saw, families of detained Bureau de Change operators protesting in Kano again.
Yeah, it's because there is no information out there. Ever since the BDC operators were arrested, so many people expected, the government to have kept the tab, keep informing the people of developments. Okay, this is where we are. We are still doing investigation. After investigation, we'll take them to the court. Things like that. But in the absence of all this, the families will have no other option than to come out the way they did, to say what's happening to our family members, because they are being kept. They are not being prosecuted as far as we can see. So the government should be able to come out to tell these people where the case is at the moment.
Okay. All right. Now, this story on page 20 of the Punch newspaper says that Senate may pass revised budget next week.
Yeah, it's because when the president actually approved the budget bill, he was particular about some of the things that were inserted into the budget, and he actually told the leadership of the National Assembly that he will be coming back for some changes, and that's where we are, because so many things have been added to the budget without even talking about how they will be funded. And when we are borrowing a huge amount of money to be able to even run the budget, I don't think it's good to introduce other things that can actually wait.
All right, so just before we wrap up, there's a story still on page 18 on the Punch, where Jega said Nigerians are suffering under reckless misrule of elites.
Well, so many people will say that, but it's easier said than done. Sometimes the people will want to know what exactly do you expect the elite to do, and is it possible for the elite to actually fail in their responsibility without the complicity of, without the people being complicit? Why are we championing their cause? If you go to social media and see the kind of things that we do, fighting over these elites, when in actual sense they don't even think about our welfare, they are always thinking of what they will get out of the system. But here we are, instead of putting them under pressure to be able to do what is right. No, we are fighting over who is right, who is wrong, who should be the president, who should not be the president, over something that we don't even have any idea how they are being done.
Okay. All right. So I think with that, we will be wrapping up the paper review today. Thank you so much for joining us in the studio. Editor-in-Chief, Dateline Nigeria, Nasiru Lawal. Thank you so much. Hope to have you again.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Thank you.
When a situation where you find that a look at the
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that. Where you find that a look at the
necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that. But in a situation where you find that a person look at the same,
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.